Have you ever been in that situation when the perfect person receives the perfect news and is given the perfect mission? That was Mary Magdalene. The person in Jesus' crew who had the past. A past that haunted her, a past that was hard for her to forget. She would be the one to go to the tomb, and she would be the one to peer in, and she would be the one to see the secret of the ages. That Jesus was no longer there. And did you catch what the angel said to Mary? He said, go tell the disciples and Peter. It's no coincidence that he said it that way, because at this point now Peter had a past. You see, when Jesus had shared the news that he would be killed by men and raised on the third day, later on, once again, he tells them about an ancient prophecy that said, the shepherd will be stricken and the sheep will scatter. And he looked Jesus in the eye and he said, I will never leave you. If I have to fight to the death, I will never betray you. And as recorded in Matthew chapter 26, Jesus looks at him and says, before the rooster crows, you'll betray me 3 times. And you know how the story goes. In just reading that chapter, you get to the end and you realize that not only does Peter deny Jesus, he denies him vehemently. And after he denies him that 3rd time, he now has a past. And the rooster crows. Luke tells us that when that rooster crowed, Peter looked up and Jesus was staring directly at him, as if to say, I know. I know. The beauty of this story is that's not where it ends. That's not where it ended for Mary Magdalene. It's not where it ended for Peter. And it's not where it ends for you and I, because Jesus found Peter on a seashore. And he walks up to him and he says these words. He says, Simon. He called him Simon, his real name. Simon, the guy with the past. Simon, do you love me more than these? And Peter says, yeah, Lord, you know I love you. Shepherd my sheep. Simon, do you love me more than these? You know all things, Lord. You know that I love you. Tend to my sheep. Simon, do you love me? And it troubled Peter that he had asked him that 3rd time. And Peter said, you know everything. You know that I love you. He said, tend my lambs. And in this message is the message of the empty tomb. It's the message of Mary Magdalene. It's the message of Peter. And it's the message to you and I that it doesn't matter what our past is. That the empty tomb says our past is gone. We all have a past. But he's more interested in our future. He's more interested in the person that we will become. Grace was amplified that day to Mary Magdalene and to Peter and us. Well, let's see how the Blockbacks family is dealing with this particular story.
Okay, but what does this have to do with the Easter Bunny hiding eggs?
Come on, Eddie. Everybody knows that the Easter Bunny hides eggs
Keith,
because...
wait. Addie, honey, the Easter Bunny has absolutely nothing to do with this story.
I don't get it. I've hunted Easter eggs every year since I can remember. And this is the first time I've heard this story.
Okay, listen, here's the deal, girls. Y'all can go to church on Easter if you want to, but I'm not going. Pretty confident church is for girls anyway.
What? Why would you say that?
Well, the only time I ever went, there was this big room and there were all these sissy flowers about, and this singing group came out. I think they called it a choir, and everyone was wearing dresses, like even the guys. And there was this other guy who got up and was speaking, talking about, you have to have an intimate relationship with God and you have to have an intimate relationship with each other. I mean, seriously, can you imagine me and Mr. Butch in the tree stand like, oh, let's have an intimate relationship with each other? And he's holding a gun. So yeah, you guys go. I'm pretty sure church is for girls.
Okay, wait. Okay, First, my friend Sherry says her church is nothing like that.
Yeah, okay.
No flowers, no choirs, and the preacher, he's just a regular guy.
Yep.
And second, if somebody wants to be like Jesus, you guys have a huge head start. I mean, Jesus was a carpenter, a hardworking, strong man, and his disciples were all men. And even though this story starts with some very devoted women, Jesus made sure these guys not only heard the news, but were prepared for action. This mission was going to call for toughness, and these guys were prepared to give it. Trust me, Keith, real men love Jesus.
Okay, Brooke, tell me what the real men have to do with Easter.
Okay, I will. So, after the women went to the tomb, they spoke to the angels, and they saw Jesus. Then they went back to Jerusalem to tell the disciples. When they got there, Peter and John...
It was the third day. Who am I, you may ask? The disciple Jesus loved. I'm John. It had been 3 days since I'd seen his limp body taken off the poles, dragged into the tomb. I was the only one of the disciples to see it, you know. While everybody else was hiding for fear and for their lives, I followed Jesus. I saw the trial. I witnessed Pilate washing his hands. I watched the beating. Jesus spoke directly to me, from the cross. I bet you didn't know that. I saw it all. While Peter and I were walking up the path, we saw Mary Magdalene running up to us, and we heard her tell us in between the gasp of breath, she had been to the tomb, spoken to angels, seen Jesus alive nonetheless. I literally didn't believe her for 1 second. Then she reminded us about the prophecy about being raised from the dead on the third day. When she said this, I looked at Peter, Peter looked at me, and without a word, it was obvious we were thinking the same thing. So we took off as fast as we could to the tomb. I got there first, but when Peter got there, I made sure he looked in first, age before beauty and all. Actually, I was scared. Everything I'd done up to this point was easy compared to this. This would reveal the undeniable truth about Jesus, God, eternity. My mind was swirling with questions. What was I going to find? If Mary was wrong, could I bear seeing my Jesus dead one more time? If she was right, what happened next? All I know is that whatever we saw in that tomb can never be unseen. It would either be a deal breaker or life changer. Whatever we saw, it would alter my world in ways that I couldn't yet fully understand. So Peter, he bent over, he looked in, looked back at me, and just smiled and pointed in the opening as to say, look for yourself. So I did. Mary was right. He wasn't there. So Peter and I did the only thing we knew what to do. We set our faces to Galilee. We had a job to do. We walked back without saying a word. We knew where to go in Galilee. We just weren't sure what we'd find. But after what we'd seen so far, we knew it'd be amazing. We were about to see a dead man brought back to life, about to hear the voice that religion and government thought they silenced. We were going to see God. You know, looking back on it now, it still seems almost impossible. But nothing's impossible on the third day.